to the show. It is Michelle Bryant here, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You are listening to Say Something Real, and it's so quiet in here this morning. Why is that? Because
certain people are not here.
The show just started the way a show's supposed to start.
Exactly.
Why is that? Because Jermaine Rideout is not with us today.
Right.
So we're about to just have an amazing show. What's happening, Devo? How you doing this morning?
I'm great, and I'm gonna leave it just like that. Good morning, Michelle.
What? Are you scared he go here? He listen?
No. It's just that because you'll be. Oh, your boy tried to come for you. You know, I'm not doing that.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
that's good.
Good morning, listeners. Good morning, Jermaine. Hope you're feeling better. Certainly are concerned about you. Immediately asked Michelle if she had spoke with you because I wanted to be certain that you were okay, my friend.
It's so sad that everybody know you fake, dude. Everybody. Let me say good
I'm
morning.
like Donald. Fake news. Fake news.
Say good morning to the other bro in the studio. What's up, Byron? How you doing today, bro?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing pretty good.
You know, you just got the crispest, chipperest voice. You know, that's code for something else. say good morning again, Byron.
Good morning.
White boy alert. Maybe think of Joe Clark. Take the chains off. We've been infiltrated. We've been infiltrated.
But and for him to be a Q, he just got the most, just the most polished voice. I love it. Good morning to everybody that's checking in. Hey, Dion, what's up, Shelby? How y'all doing this morning? Hey, Alex. Let me just say, hopefully everybody had a great Mother's Day to the extent possible. I know that there were some folks that were celebrating for the first time this year without their moms, and others who, have said, Michelle, if it's been 5 years or 10, it's still difficult. Other folks had an opportunity to celebrate with family members, loved ones, neighbors. I know that there were a group of bros that did an event yesterday to acknowledge women and their contributions. And so just kind of we'll talk about some of those things off and on throughout the morning. It is a packed morning, though. I have attorney Mark Thompson coming in this morning, as well as one of my colleagues, Will Martin, who'll be in at the bottom of the hour in the second half of the show, talking about some educational information that we need to know about and be aware of. So let's, just jump right into it. And I'm gonna tell you, let me back up. How was Mother's Day, Debo?
Well, I also had my party on yesterday
coupled
with Mother's Day, and it was an awesome turnout. Vic Allen gave a great performance, as well as Mr. Terry Wright, young lady new to the scene, but not new to this town or music as a whole. Star Red, she came out on yesterday. Chris Levy was there. It was just a great time. It was a great time to be had by all. My mom enjoyed her Mother's Day piece with me, the time that I was able to spend with her. We swapped our little gifts or whatever because she hadn't given me my birthday gift yet. So we, did our thing. But a good day overall. Good day. The weather was just perfect.
It was amazing yesterday. It was beautiful yesterday, even though I was doing other stuff. It was amazing. Byron, you got the new baby. Still, I keep saying new baby, but you got the new mom over there. How was Mother's Day?
Mother's Day was great. We made our rounds, so we made sure we hit everybody's house up. Got a plate.
And there's the Omega I know and love.
That's the best part of Mother's Day.
Which is that's part of Mother's Day, that you make rounds and get a plate. You're all right then. I love it. I love it. Yeah. My Mother's Day was it was interesting. I'll just leave it there. It was interesting.
I know for a lot, Michelle, it's a kind of a somber day for many who don't have their moms. It has been difficult for some. I watch people struggle with it. I got a cousin. We just buried their mom maybe 3 weeks ago. So
Okay.
it's still fresh, and then the fact that it's Mother's Day and I don't have my mother, so certainly a lot of my other cousins got with her and her, siblings, and just kind of try to rally around them because it was a very difficult day for them.
Yeah, I mean, I tell people everybody got to figure out how to deal and do stuff. It's a lot of women that are important in my life that I get to uplift on Mother's Day, and then my own mama got her whole place. Uh, I do her photo albums. Uh, Make her some of her favorite meals. I'll make them, or do things that I know she would have did. Me and my brother Rib talking about how she was a hot mess, and so it's all in how you try to approach it. But I'm always thankful when people got folks to like keep them from being in a funk or depressed, or having that support network is so important. I tell people that all the time. You underestimate. There are a lot of people like, "Nah, I just want to go home, be by myself." That it's something to be said about having people around you and having people that know you, knew your folks, good friends. Don't ever underestimate the value of those relationships. The other thing that I did, and my grandson Atlas is just so special. I can just tell this child gonna be an issue.
You too, huh? Some of the things you share is certainly an
He's
indicator.
he's just gonna be an issue. I talked to him yesterday. He FaceTime and I said, he gonna be mad I told this. I said, because he was doing something, and I said, have you he was like getting ready to eat or something. I said, have you brushed your teeth yet? And he said, no. I said, why not? He said, because I don't have school today. And I said, I was like, what? It was like, yo, you brush my teeth when I go to school. Oh my God. I said, so you just sitting around the house with a yuck mouth for the whole weekend? He was like, pretty much. I was like, no, I can't stand that little boy. And I'm looking at his daddy like, for real, bro? This is what you teaching my grandson? He only brush his teeth when he go to school? He said, well, that boy lying. I said, no, it don't sound like it. It sound like he's serious. And I asked his mom. His mama said, no, he ain't brush his teeth. He just around here just in everybody's face, mouth just nasty. So yeah, he gonna be an issue. But anyway, um, got a fly jacket from my son for Mother's Day though. Ooh, boy, they nothing like raising kids with good taste. Ooh, Jesus. And know his mama.
And
So,
money.
I would say and money.
And kids need to have their own money too, Don't just damn they taste. They got the bread.
Look, I'm sorry. I need the combination.
Right.
Because you can have bread and not have good taste and buy me
Mhm.
some mess. And I'll be sitting there like,
But see if you got the bread.
man,
Just
ain't
give me the
nobody
bread and I'll go get what I want.
nah, I like the thought. I like the thought going into it. It's so easy to give a gift card. You know how I am. I mention
Mhm.
this every holiday. It's so easy to give a gift card. And that way they get what they want. It takes the work out of you knowing your and listening all year for who your people are. My son know me, so the jacket he sent me, I ironically got the pants to it, and I've been waiting to find something to wear with it. So I was like, "Boy, you know your mama."
Look at God.
I'm just saying. He was like, "What?" I said, "Fam, I bought the pants a while ago. Couldn't find a jacket. They just been in the closet because I didn't know what to wear with them." So yeah, about to put that in rotation. So the other thing I did was I had an opportunity to go to the AKA's the EKQ chapter of the graduate chapter. I went to their 75th anniversary luncheon. Their like event slogan, 75 years of culture, class, and community. And so it was actually very, very nice. Man, I just forget how many AKAs I know. I'm like, dang, I know like a lot of these people, way too many AKAs for comfort. But it was an amazing event. Tiny Boston was the event chair, I think, and chair. And they say chairman. I wonder why people say chairman as opposed to chairwoman. But anyway, um, Tony Boston did, and her team did a phenomenal job of putting this whole thing together. And, they showed up and showed out. The one thing I will say, their keynote speaker, I had interviewed her on the show, Bishop Leah Daughtry, and I always listen if there's something in a speaker's comments that I can take, incorporate into things that I do. And Bishop Daughtry said two things that I just want to mention real quick because the power in these two things. Number one, she said, focus is an act of freedom. Focus is an act of freedom. I'm gonna let that sit for a second, and I'll make my way back around before the day is over, hopefully. The other thing that she said, which is a little bit more simple to understand, knowledge is more than power. Because we see those slogans all the time. Knowledge is power. She said, knowledge is more than power. It's protection. Think about that for a second. Knowledge is more than power. It's protection. What do we do all the time when we engage with law enforcement? The first thing we start thinking about is, I know my rights. I know what should and shouldn't be happening in this moment. What do we talk about when we think about, going into certain areas or doing certain things? Because I know the lay of the land, I have the knowledge of a particular area. There's a certain degree of protection that I afford myself because I know how to move in certain situations. When we are teaching young people about knowledge and going to school and getting an education and telling them knowledge is power, you can do so many things when you are educated. The other aspect of that is protection. And that protection looks like housing. That protection looks like, employment. That protection looks like healthcare. That you are setting up a situation in which you are able to protect yourself as well. I think about all of these young people and even some of the older ones that I see right now that are unhoused, homeless, out here on the streets. And these people have no protection from the elements, from other folks that may do them harm in the streets. They have nothing. And you just sitting back and going like, man, this is crazy. So when she said that, it just hit in such a different way that, caller, I see you, I'll be right there. But it hit in just such a different way, by saying knowledge is power, but it's also protection. I just had to share that. It was just crazy. And I had a whole moment. But let me do this as well. This morning, doing this show, I got to be honest, is very difficult for me. And when I tell you, like, my chest is beating, my heart is beating out of my chest. Um, I'm just tight, clenched jaw, and force myself to smile as I said good morning, because I went to bed understanding that this morning around 6 a.m., the first group of white South African individuals that are fleeing South Africa because people have to make right on many of the injustices connected to apartheid. And so there's this whole piece about the land. And anyone that's old enough to remember apartheid, which when I think about me and Lena, Senator Taylor, Judge Taylor now, like, our early work was around the issue of apartheid. We met at UWM's campus. And because we understood how Black people were being treated in this other country, um, subjected to having to carry papers to have permission to move around in the town, in the city, but then being banished to the outskirts and living in tin shanties and shacks, when white people constituted less than 20% of the country's population. They literally went in and took land from these Black folks and relegated them to a modern day form of slavery in terms of the lack of rights and the lack of the ability to participate in government or to work where they wanted to dine where they wanted to. Like this happened while I was in college. And this is the thing, we don't educate our children about how these injustices have happened around the world. So you got a whole bunch of little black kids walking around, all carefree and my life is my life. And, I don't have to do this. I don't have to care about the community when they don't appreciate that, man, people have sacrificed for you to be where you are today. And you're going to have to do your part to make sure that the next, generation, the next, swath of kids have the same ability to move around because it's being attacked every day. And so when I go to bed realizing that 49 white Afrikaners have been given refugee status by the Trump administration on a chartered flight, left South Africa on Sunday. This flight was paid for by the United States government. And they arrived at Dulles Airport this morning. And then they're going to go over to Texas. So these descendants, mostly of Dutch colonists, left Johannesburg with all their suitcases. They wouldn't talk to the media, but, they all packed up. And they were, oh my God, they were boarded on the planes because they didn't like the idea that the South African government has said land was stolen when apartheid ended and Nelson Mandela, they, negotiated this transfer of land. The way it was set up, it would take forever for Black folks to get their land or to get land back. When I went to South Africa a couple of years ago, one of the first things that I saw when that plane was landing and we were flying in over the country, and then we, finally get to our city and we flying in, the first thing I saw, and I gasped, like visibly shaken, was them same damn shanty towns, those aluminum, those tin shacks that people were living in when me and Lena was advocating for them here in America when I was in college. And when I talked to the locals, I was like, what the heck was that? What are these tin huts? What's going on? And they said many people in South Africa still live in pretty much the same conditions. Yeah, you free to go get a job in the main city. And if you got a certain income, and again, protection, a certain amount of education, and you can work for a good company, you can kind of afford to live certain places. But the majority of these people are still living in a lot of the conditions because when those deals got done, and they've also had some Black folks come in, into office that haven't done what they were supposed to do in terms of getting wealth back to these communities. These folks have continued to struggle. But here is the United States government that's rounding up Black Haitians on horses and looking like a damn scene from Roots, chasing Black folks in the water, because you're trying to escape war and or violence and death, prostitution, all of these horrible things. You're trying to escape that. And they get rounded up and put on a plane and sent up out of here. And other, Black and brown communities rounded up. The legal workers that came to this country to help these white rural communities who don't have enough workers. And Donald Trump running around telling people they eating dogs and cats and trying to scare people about them. And even though these people were here legally, trying to figure out how to get them out of the country. And as they try to figure out how to suspend due process laws, habeas corpus for people that are seeking asylum, seeking a better way of life. The black and the brown people are getting put out of this country in record numbers. But you got the United States government, and this is nothing but Elon Musk and his connection. His father moved their family intentionally to South Africa to taking advantage of black folks. Right now, the white population in South Africa is only 7% of the country's population. Ask me how much they own. Damn near 75% of the land and everything else. How are you 7% of the population, but you own nearly the entire country? Because all of that happened under this system of apartheid. And so you got Donald Trump bringing these racist people at my expense. That's our money they using to bring these people to this country. You're using black folks' money along with everybody else's money who pays into our taxes and everything else that makes this government run to give white people from South Africa a quick pathway to citizenship. And then the next question is, so what they going to be set up with? They're going to be set up with housing. They're going to be set up with jobs. They're going to be set up with some pocket money. Once they get here, or now that they're here, what happens next? Because black and brown people, you holler if they get assistance. Like when I tell you my chest is in knots thinking about what is happening in this country today. What is happening in this country today? They want to continue farming in the U.S. So you can give them some farmland, because most of these are farmers. Well, these are farmers and their families. So you're going to give them some free land? How the hell are they buying land? Where are they getting the money from? And you intentionally let white folks skip the line because of whatever perceived injustice they going through when the South African government says, we ain't took nobody's land yet. We haven't done any of that yet. And you let these people skip the line, and only the white folks. That's the America we living in at this moment. When I tell y'all I'm sick, because I know what it was like for our folks. We ain't got no reparations, not in South Africa, not in this country. I know what it's like for our people. This is the dirtiest mess I ever seen in my life. We can't afford not to be educated and be in a position to protect ourselves. What Thurgood Marshall and them did by way of education, and then using that power to be able to effectuate changes to the law, is what gave us protection from a lot of this foolishness that we saw during the civil rights era and Jim Crow. I gotta take a break. But you using my money to bring these people to this country while you putting people that look like me out of this country. This is a moment when I ask, where the hell is the national NAACP and those civil rights organizations? There ought to be lawsuits about what's being done today. I'll be right back. Folks, welcome back to the show. Dude, what kind of music is that? That's how. As soon as you look. What kind of music is that? That sounds like somebody know a little something. What's going on? I love that selection. Every time I have had an opportunity to hear it. Let me say good morning. I have a gentleman in the studio. I told you we were going to be having our guest, and in fact, this is a regular segment now here at the station. Hey, Mark, how are you doing this morning?
Happy Mother's Day. It's late. So I'm doing really, really well. Thank you so much,
Thank
Michelle.
Good. It is good to see you. So, as I was saying, we are thrilled to have a monthly conversation with you. This segment, The Scales of Justice, and talking about different topics of interest that the community should be aware of or things that you want to flag for us. Our relationship actually started as a result or in part due to a lawsuit that you were making sure that the community was aware of. And just remind people of that real quick, please.
Sure. Yes, I'm very, very happy to be with you. The second Monday of the month,
Yes.
The Scales of Justice. It's an honor and a privilege. Last time we were talking about Isaiah Taylor and how his efforts to find justice resulted in a decision from the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in support of him getting a new trial on an issue where the court said if the police detain you even 1 second and they don't have a reasonable suspicion to arrest you, that's too long. So in this city where too often too many folks, particularly folks of color, are stopped for a lot more than 1 second, that was a major, major victory. So sort of coming off of that discussion, I'm glad to be here with you. And I heard you talking on my way in, and you were talking about Elon Musk, number 47, and his attack on our system and an attack on the African American community. And not only that, I thought it was the perfect segue to talk about that whole issue because so much has happened since I was here.
Oh my goodness. I thought about you right away. As some of the cases have appeared, I have appeared on other um, radio programs around the country. Folks have reached out. Everything from, ICE arrest at the courthouse and subsequently the arrest of Judge Hannah Dugan, to just people being concerned about the current climate that we are in and people feeling like I don't know if I know enough to stay safe or what I can and cannot do. And so I'm looking forward to the discussion this morning, and I will open it up to you, in terms of first area we want to hit, by way of a topic this morning.
I think we should talk about my friend Judge Hannah Dugan and what that whole arrest and how it occurred and what it really means in the context of the bigger picture that you were talking about.
Okay.
Right. So we have a woman who is well respected. She's a judge. She was in misdemeanor court. She has been active in the community, a supporter of the broad community. And they come in and handcuff her, take her down to the federal courthouse, right? Put her in shackles and arrest her. All on the allegation, and these are just allegations, that somehow the way a immigrant that was had a misdemeanor case in front of her court left her courtroom out into the public hallway where ICE was, right? All under the guise of an administrative warrant, not a judicial warrant. So this whole question of how can federal ICE agents come into Milwaukee County's courthouse on an administrative warrant, disrupt the court proceedings, and ultimately end up, and we have Kash Patel and Bondi and Trump calling her out. And
But let me ask this question though, because I know some states have been very clear. I think it was New York that I saw most recently that have said that in order for ICE to come into a courthouse to execute a warrant, it has to be a judicial warrant, not administrative. Are we clear on law in Wisconsin? Because I have been looking around to see if there had been guidance given to Wisconsin judges, Milwaukee area judges, that a judicial warrant is needed, not an administrative. Do we have clear? What is state law? What is our law in relationship to that?
great question. And I think until the arrest of Hannah Dugan, nobody really had thought about it because it just didn't happen. Well, I mean, people started talking about it a couple of weeks before when they arrested the first non-documented with an administrative warrant in the courthouse. So you mentioned New York. There were states that sort of attempted to build in a Trump defense. Wisconsin was not one of them, right? We have a legislature that's run by the Republicans. To the extent that they have put forward legislation on this issue, they want to pass a state law that mandates that county sheriffs, police departments assist ICE
Right.
in immigration work, right? Which is
Right.
outrageous. They want to use our tax dollars to fund a federal mandate. But let's go back to this notion. An administrative warrant, it's not probable cause. No judge has determined that anyone committed a crime. What we have is it's not even a crime to have an administrative warrant, right? If you're undocumented, it's not a crime, right? You may be subject to deportation, but you are not charged with a crime. That alone, just being undocumented. Okay. So they have an administrative warrant. So that means it hasn't been determined that it's a criminal activity. And so the whole idea is, shouldn't our courthouses be safe places for everyone to go to? Now,
well, I don't understand what's the difference between, so judicial, I'm assuming, is a warrant that was executed by a judge.
By a judge, where they have said there is evidence that there is probable cause a crime was committed. This whole concept.
An administrative judge, who signs off on that? Where does that come from?
It comes from ICE's administrative warrant, and it just says we have proof that you may be undocumented, and they have the right to do it. But just being undocumented in the United States is not a crime. And so this idea, and until recently, ICE did not execute administrative warrants in public areas of the courthouse.
Right, I read that.
Right? I mean, and that was even Trump's policy in January said that the preferable. Okay, right. But so we have a decision made at the highest level to come in and interrupt our courthouses. So I read there was a Boston municipal court. They came in and interrupted. And now they are doing it here with they haven't been in municipal court yet.
But let me just ask this question. And I'm going to tell you, and I want to preface my comments by saying, so I understand why Judge Dugan did what she did. Because I think there's a lot of ambiguity about the process. It's not consistent from one, state to state, not even one municipality to another. It seems like it doesn't seem like the judges have had a ton of guidance about what they can and can't do. But I've been having this debate back and forth with people, because one of the things that I struggled with, if in fact she did allow this gentleman to use a door that's not typically used by anyone outside of her and the jury to leave the courtroom, then were you in fact assisting this individual to leave? And if you were, I'm fine with that if that's the choice you're making. But I guess I'm trying to couch that in, or to figure out, because if I'm here to uphold the law, if I think it's an unjust law, as a judge, do I get to do something different? I don't know that that should be the case.
I think
So I'm struggling
okay.
with trying to, like I said, in principle, I got it.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Because ultimately there's going to be an arraignment this Thursday, right? May 15th. There's an arraignment.
Okay.
So we're going to find out theoretically before then what exactly
transpired.
What exactly they're going to charge her with.
Oh, charge her with.
Okay. I mean, she's been arrested.
Right.
And all we know is that this person ended up into the public hallway where the ICE agent was. Okay. So I don't know the facts, but
So
I want to go back to this point, what you're saying.
Because they sound like for everything I read, that they actually apprehended him outside of the building.
That's because they decided to follow him outside the building. He was in the hallway with the ICE agent, and the ICE agent could have arrested him in the hallway. They didn't. They followed him out, talked to him. I mean, there's going to be a lot of facts come out. But let's go back to the issue, because I think the administration, and by that I mean Trump, Kash, Patel, Bondi, DOJ, they are trying to raise this issue about Judge Dugan. Okay, because you're right. A judge has to enforce the law until the law is changed, right? I mean, that's what we expect. But right now, they haven't alleged that there's been any violation. They've alleged there's been a violation of law, but we don't even know. We don't know what the indictment is. But the bigger question is this, and this goes back to the question you asked originally. What is the law in Wisconsin? And there isn't a law that has been adopted that articulates when does a federal administrative power stop? What's the line? Okay. There is a lot of debate, but there is a lot of law that supports the proposition that courthouses, you should not be allowed to execute an administrative warrant in a courthouse. People make the argument for churches as well, because it interrupts the justice system at the state level.
And just so we're clear, when you say interrupts, because there will be some people who will literally say, well, the arrest would have been effectuated in a public hallway, not in the actual courtroom. But the idea, I think, people are driving at is that, but if people are afraid to come to the courthouse, that's the interference. It interferes with the execution of justice in our community. Am I off on that?
No, I think you're directly on point. We had the DAs in Milwaukee come out and say, look, we don't want this person deported because we had charged him with a crime. That victim under state law should be entitled to their day in court, and this person should be convicted. So that's how it interrupts justice at our level. Okay. We have someone that was charged who now is in ICE's control, subject to deportation, and the victim of that crime is going to be denied the right to confront that person in court and get that person convicted. So what we're talking about is, when in America is it appropriate to have an administrative warrant arrest in a courthouse in the state? And my proposition, my suggestion is this: Milwaukee County, the court, the state, our Attorney General Josh Call, we need to say, look, if there's a federal judicial warrant, of course you make your arrest. If you have knowledge of a federal emergency crime, right? Probable cause that something bad's going to happen at a courthouse, of course you want the feds in. But if you just have a routine enforcement of an administrative warrant, our state courthouses should be off limits for that.
So what's the deal? How do we get that guidance? I mean, does a lawsuit have to be filed? Does the AG just get to step in at this the third attorney general just get to step in at this point and say that this is the lay of the land? The Supreme Court has to step in. Where do we get this? And what happens if the feds choose not to respect it?
So this is the part of the beauty of living in a world where we're fighting the biggest Goliath we've fought since the Civil War, right?
Right.
Right. We're little Davids out here. We're trying to figure out how to stop Trump for his billionaires for billionaires and completely undermining who we are. No, I mean, because this goes back to this issue.
Yeah, no, and I was going to say we got to
have
help people understand that phrase when you
we have a woman whose life is being destroyed for running her courthouse, right? I mean, completely destroyed. And this is like, I want to, and when I say I want, this is Trump and his power saying, I want to so intimidate everybody to be quiet.
I mean, it made me think about in New York yesterday, Mayor Ross Baracus was arrested by ICE after he had left a detention center, a privately owned detention center. And as the mayor, elected officials, they have the right to go to those facilities. Nobody clearly understood why he was arrested or detained. And as I even watched, and I'm trying to figure out,
well, they're claiming he's trespassing, right? But it's outrageous.
He wasn't trespass.
That's right.
Yeah, because
hello,
as an elected official, he has the right to do that. But the thing that I even had this eerie moment is when I saw the ICE police officers, all these folks are wearing masks. And I'm like, so if I were to be assaulted by one of you all, I couldn't even identify you because you got a mask on. So it's so many things now that just seems like they're going off the rail and are contrary to the way
they are off the rail. And I'm here saying I have never seen anything like this in my lifetime, much less my lifetime as a lawyer, right? So, we have never seen such abuse of executive power ever.
Well, look, I got to take a break. You put a phrase out there. I want to make sure you get to that. Billionaires. What is the phrase?
What, billionaires for billionaires?
There it is. I like it. And so we're going to touch on that. Let me take a quick break, you all. Michelle Bryant, WNOV 860 AM 106.5 FM. You are listening to The Scales of Justice, a news segment on the station, and we'll be right back.
Michelle Bryant and attorney Mark Thompson on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM. Now, back to the Scales of Justice with your host, Michelle Bryant, and attorney Mark Thompson on WNOV 860 AM and 106.5 FM.
I heard it this time. Welcome back to the show. Look, I got to get in as much as I can before I lose Mark, attorney Thompson. So we went to the break with me saying you're going to just take a second. The phrase that you threw out there, billionaires for billionaires. Tell folks what you mean by that.
So, we sat there on Inauguration Day, and there were more billionaires sitting behind Donald Trump than I'd ever seen in my life. Bezos was there. Zuckerberg was there.
Yeah.
Elon Musk was there. And all we have had for the last 112 days, folks, and it's only been 112 days, is everything they have done has been for billionaires and by billionaires. I mean, think about it. In my lifetime, I have never seen this kind of raw power unchecked by billionaires taking everything for themselves and leaving nothing for the people. And we are going to see very soon. I had a friend up north, truck driver, laid off because the tariffs are starting to have an impact.
Right.
The VA's been laying off. I mean, I'll be back in a month and we'll talk more about it, and we'll find out who is feeling it. I mean, they're cutting off lead money in the city. I mean, what are they doing? My grandkids are going to schools with lead. We need lead remediation, and the federal government is walking away, and the state Republicans are saying, we're not going to do anything to remove lead from the school. So they just want to poison our children. I mean, that's what I mean. Billionaires by billionaires for billionaires, because they have just decided a raw grab of power, and they've done it in the classic way, divide and conquer, because hand in hand with that, they have attacked every civil rights provision that's been my whole life, starting with the 1965 executive order by President Johnson, saying that there has to be equal rights in federal grants. That's gone. And last week, they said, Trump says he's going to wipe out disparate impact. And for you folks out there, lawyers like me, that means that's a powerful tool to prove discrimination. So he has taken this attack on DEI, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And essentially he is just saying, I call it the resurrection of the old Confederacy. I mean, this is the biggest white power grab in my lifetime. And they want us fighting each other. And our task, and we better do it soon, because 112 days, they already got my friend Judge Hannah Dugan life at stake. We need to get together and figure out how to go there together.
So on the most immediate front, there's an event to support Judge Dugan, or what's going on?
Yeah, like the SEIU and the Milwaukee County Dems and some other folks, VOSIS, they have organized a Protect Our Freedoms gathering march. It's not really a march. They gather 7:30 to 10:30 out in front of the federal courthouse on May 15th, this Thursday.
Okay.
That's when Judge Hannah Dugan is to be arraigned, right? Drop the charges. And we need everybody out there, everybody. So that's where I'm going to be. I'm sorry to interrupt your show, but
no,
I'm going to be out there.
No, I think is good information there. Like I said, there are a lot of people that have been following this case. It's made international headlines, quite frankly, and it did send a shockwave. Through legal circles. A lot of judges are already feeling under attack. I was reading about a judge who said that they were being sent pizzas, and those pizzas were being sent in the name of a murdered son of a judge. And so those were signs. We know who you are, we know what your family members are. So there is a need for people to fight back and trying to figure out what that looks like, and on all fronts is so critical. Like I said, I understand why Judge Dugan, I understand what her heart was, I understand what she was doing, and even the legal principle behind, because this just wasn't an emotional moment. There are legal questions about the validity of the way these things are being executed. I get all of that. So, I want to encourage people, if you care about freedom, if you care about justice, that you show up Thursday morning, if you have the ability to do so in that window between 7:30 and, you said 10:30?
7:30 to 10:30.
10:30. All right. Well, look, once again, you did not fail to have a conversation that will leave us all thinking. Some questions get answered, even more come up. But I think the biggest thing is that people are thinking about, how do you strategically respond to what we see happening around us? And with that, if folks tell people what type of law the firm practices, and if folks have questions or want to reach out to the firm, what should they do?
Thank you, Michelle. The law firm is Gingras, Thompson, and Wax. We have offices Milwaukee, Madison, and Eau Claire. I do primarily personal injury work, a lot of civil rights work.
So
but
you're going to be busy, okay?
Not right now, but I mean, I think it's important as lawyers to speak out now, because one of the attacks of Trump has been to go after law firms.
Right.
And we have just had a major decision by a federal court saying you can't attack law firms. So, this is an attack on all fronts, folks.
After strong arming these people for almost $1 billion in pro bono work.
No, I mean, come on. But anyway, that's a whole nother. But
it is.
So, but every personal injury lawyer, every lawyer out there needs to weigh in, okay? Because due process and our system of laws has to be followed, and the billionaires cannot be allowed to ignore it and walk away scot-free. So,
all right, fair enough, folks. That was Mark Thompson, Scales of Justice. Every second Monday of the month, right here at WNOV 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Mark, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much.
A lot to think about. And I hope people understood when he said that interference with justice, thinking about it even from the side of that victim who deserved to have their day in court and to have that case play its way out. All right, family, let me take a quick break. I'll be right back. Back to the show. Look, during the break, Debo and I are taking a moment to talk about this fire that happened over in the Concordia neighborhood off of 27th and Highland, the apartment building that caught on fire. Now, a fifth person has been announced as having passed away. More than 30 folks, hurt, injured. Milwaukee uh, chief of police, Milwaukee Fire Department chief Aaron Lipsky has been posting on social media, and so yep, he said that a fifth person has passed away. And me and Debo were just talking because he was saying that the building did not have sprinklers. And when I went to go pull the article up, it said the 4-story, 85-unit apartment complex did not have working sprinklers in the apartment units. The building was grandfathered in, excuse me, because it was built before 1974. Because the first thing I heard, when he said that, I said, "Oh, the owner about to get sued." The other thing, the owner of that building lived in the building. And it sounds like it may be a woman, but they said the owner lives in the building. So he said, the chief had said, if we had sprinklers in the building, we would have stopped the fire. We would not have had to have people jumping out of windows. We would not have had to pull people out of windows. We would not have had to drag people down hallways to rescue them. And we would not have had 4 fatalities today. And that was right afterwards. So, yeah, that's crazy. And so if you don't have the sprinkler systems, then you definitely ought to have the smoke alarms. But we'll learn more as this whole thing unfolds. But it is a really sad occasion, and obviously thinking about these family members and these folks that are now displaced because of the fire and just the safety of everybody. But I didn't realize that, yeah, so you get grandfathered in if your building is of a certain age. And the crazy thing for so many of us, we live in olding housing stock. Now you think about the city buildings, many of them, if there have not been renovations and major work done, we live in older housing stock. Someone hit me up for a phone number for attorney Thompson. I will get that for you. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll make sure that I get it so I can pass it along. All right. So I mentioned real briefly when Attorney Thompson was here, m- the fact that the system and everything we understand right now about the way things have gone just feel like they are going off the rails. Yesterday, a lot of us were talking about an arrest that took place on Friday. Newark's mayor, Ross Baraka, was arrested on Friday at a federal immigration detention center where he has been protesting its opening this week and held in custody for 8 hours. Baraka was released shortly after 8 p.m. and after stepping out of the SUV with flashing emergency lights, told waiting reporters, the reality is this: I didn't do anything wrong. Baraka said he could not speak about his case, citing a promise he made to lawyers and the judge, but he voiced full-throated support for everyone living in his community, immigrants included. Quote, all of us here, every last one of us, I don't care what background you come from, what nationality, what language you speak. At some point, we have to stop these people from causing division between us. Baraka is running for governor. Um, to succeed the term limited Governor Phil Murphy, and has embraced the fight with the Trump administration over illegal immigration. He has aggressively pushed back against the construction and opening of the 1,000 bed detention center. So that's what they put in the Newark community, a 1,000 bed detention center, arguing that it should not be allowed to open because of building permit issues. Linda Baraka, the mayor's wife, accused the federal government of targeting her husband. Quote, they didn't arrest anyone else. They didn't ask anyone else to leave. They wanted to make an example out of the mayor, she said, and that she had not been allowed to see him. A crowd gathered to protest outside the building where he was being held, many chanting, let the mayor go. The interim U.S. attorney for New Jersey said on the social platform fake Twitter that Baraka committed trespass and ignored warnings from Homeland Security personnel to leave Delaney Hall, a detention facility run by private prison operator Geo Group. They said he chose to disregard the law and he was taken into custody. But this is the thing, and people will tell you, elected officials have the ability to go into these facilities, whether they are privately owned or publicly owned. Witnesses said the arrest came after Baraka attempted to join 3 members of New Jersey's congressional delegation in attempting to enter the facility. And Representatives Robert Menendez, LaMonica McIver, and Bonnie Watson Coleman. Bonnie Watson Coleman is like 72 years old. And if you saw the video from this altercation, there were staffers trying to cover her to keep her from being shoved around and pushed around. And as I said, you see members of the police department and ICE with masks on. And I'm like, so you don't want protesters wearing masks when they on these college campuses, but it's okay for the police and law enforcement to wear a mask? And again, if you assault me or you do something to me that's out of order and I need to report you with the mask on your face, I can't even really describe you. I can see some of your skin. So, white guy, maybe 5'7", 6 feet. I don't know. But why are they allowed to wear masks as they are executing and doing these arrests and these engagements? It was an awful scene. People were pushing and yelling. They threw one of the organizers to the ground. But you didn't arrest anybody else but Baraka. That just lets you know the significance of nobody else got arrested for trespassing. They put him in handcuffs, put him in an unmarked car, and the way they showed up, the force was so crazy. I mean, you look like you was coming in to deal with a riot in the way that they showed up. Homeland Security and lawmakers had not asked for a tour of the facility. That's what the Department of Homeland Security said that lawmakers had not asked for a tour of the facility. The department said further that a bus carrying detainees was entering. A group of protesters, including 2 members of the U.S. House of Representatives, stormed the gate and broke into the detention facility. You know the people that, like I said, one of them legislators is 72 years old. You did not storm no gate and break into, and then what kind of this facility you got that's all you got to do to get in there? What kind of security detention center is this? That all it takes is some people to storm the gate and break in. Like, this administration is so hell-bent on limiting people's ability to check them and check their power. If we do not get a handle on this, y'all, we're gonna wake up and not understand at all where we are living anymore. The video that they put out shows the mayor standing by the gate. He was told he couldn't join the tour of the facility because you are not a congressional member. He left the secure area, rejoined protesters on the public side of the gate. The video showed him speaking through the gate to a man in a suit who said, "They're talking about coming back to arrest you." So the minutes later, ICE agents, some wearing again the face mask, surrounded him and others on the public side. As protesters cried out shame, Baraka was dragged back through the security gate in handcuffs. He was outside of the facility. So what are y'all doing? The ICE personnel came out aggressively to arrest him and grab him. It didn't make any sense why they chose that moment to grab him while he was outside of the gates. Several civil rights and immigration reform advocates, as well as government officials, condemned his arrest. But we will see. But this facility, a 2-story building next to a county prison, formerly operated as a halfway house. In February, ICE awarded a 15-year contract to the Geo Group, Inc. to run the Newark Detention Center. It is valued at a $1 billion contract and an unusually long and large agreement for ICE. The announcement was a part of President Donald Trump's plan to sharply increase detention beds nationwide. from a budget of about 41,000 beds this year. Baraka sued GEO soon after the deal was announced. GEO touted the Delaney Hall contract during its earnings call with shareholders, saying it was expected to generate more than $60 million a year in revenue. So they bragging to shareholders off these ICE immigrants. And just think about this, y'all. So we don't want you in the country. We don't want to feed you. We don't want to help you get on your feet. We don't want to help you get employed. But we're going to pay somebody $60 million to incarcerate you? That sounds like what we do here in the state. We're going to spend $120,000 to keep you in jail, but we won't spend that to educate you properly and make sure you have health care and make sure that there's affordable housing to keep you from making the dumb decisions that potentially and sometimes lead you to a prison sentence. So I won't help you on the front end, but I will spend millions of dollars to incarcerate you on the back end. And this company is bragging, we're going to make $60 million a year housing these people. The process, the facility started taking people in on May 1st. In Michigan, they are increasing a contract with ICE so that they go from around 20,000 beds to around 23,000 beds. Because as I said before, sending these people to El Salvador and all of that, unsustainable. Unsustainable. Donald Trump does not have the authority to spend that kind of money in these other countries. And we're only doing that for 239 people. You can't do it. What about it? To bring the people over.
Take a look at the story. It's in the news this morning.
I mean, well, say something more than that, Debo. I haven't seen the story. Say something.
I don't know the full story, Michelle. I just caught a little of it, but he's going somewhere over in the Middle East, and a Middle Eastern country is going to give us an airplane to go in his library, but they're deeming it as it's going to be used as Air Force One.
Okay, here we go. Qatar, Trump administration in talks, with Qatar. Let me go to a site I don't have to pay to read the story. All right, here we go. The royal family of Qatar is donating a jumbo jet for President Trump's exclusive use as a presidential plane. ABC News first reported the gift, which comes as Mr. Trump heads to Qatar as a part of his first international trip. But the plane, a 747-8, won't be ready to serve as Air Force One quite yet, and Trump won't be using it to fly back to the U.S. from the Middle East. The plane needs to be checked for security and spy devices before it's accepted. The plane will be donated to the future Trump Presidential Library shortly before he leaves office. White House press secretary said Monday the government graciously offered to donate a plane to the Department of Defense. And the legal details of that are still being worked out. But of course, any donation to this government is always done in full compliance with the law. Why would you need somebody's plane?
You have Bernie Sanders and different ones who have spoke out. There are those that even saying that it's illegal for him to accept a gift of that nature because
he's an elected ethically, yeah. The press secretary says she is, quote, absolutely not worried that if Qatar gives the U.S. something, the country expects something in return. You sound like a whole fool. Oh, my God. I hadn't seen this one yet. This is so outrageous. The plane has an estimated value of $400 million. $400 million. Which would constitute the most valuable gift ever conferred on a president by a foreign government. $400 million. One legislator has called for an immediate ethics review of the gift, a formal advisory opinion on whether the gift violates federal ethics regulations and the emoluments clause. Trump defended the idea of receiving the luxurious jet and lambasted those who criticized what he called free of charge gift to replace a 40-year-old Air Force One. But this is the thing. If you keep hollering about make America great again, so you telling me the American people can't build you a plane that is sufficient for you to be able to fly to Mar-a-Lago? Because that's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. The majority of your flights are to Florida, to your property. Oh my God. This is,
Yeah, I never
I
heard
just
nothing like that before.
cannot. Oh. So Donald Trump went on to say, it so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers. MAGA. Oh my God. The Air Force One was already set to be replaced, with delivery initially set for 2024. But the completion of the modified Boeing 747 was pushed back to 2027. So we already got a plane, a new Air Force One that was supposed to be delivered last year, but they are not delivering it now until 2027. But it's not like we don't have a new plane. We got one. Like, again, you go nowhere, dude. No country wants you there. The only places you go, you force yourself in. You went to the Pope's funeral because you forced yourself over there. They didn't want you to come. I just cannot. I cannot. Okay. Speaking of the Pope, let me transition away from one set of crazy to another set of crazy. All right. By now, everybody knows we got a new Pope. And it took what? 2 little rounds, which was relatively short, to be able to get everybody on consensus, or enough people on consensus, that this Pope wins the support of all these folks to get selected. So the new Pope, oh my God. Oh my God. So the new Pope is now being described as potentially the first Black Pope. And for people that are like, yeah, nah. Yeah. There have already been extensive looks by people. And I'm gonna tell you, the first person who raised the flag before I saw any article, anything, was Lakeisha. Because Lakeisha's family is from the New Orleans area. And when they heard the Pope's name, they immediately went to New Orleans and to the 7th Ward and to an area that is Black. And that's where the Pope's grandparents was from. So Robert Francis Prevost. And when Lakeisha heard the name Prevost, she said, wait a minute. And I'm looking at her because I'm not from New Orleans. I don't understand this. I don't know the name significance. She was like, wait a minute, and got to Googling and typing, and other folks was already Googling and typing along with her. Robert Francis Prevost, Chicago born, who became Pope Leo the 14th on Thursday, does have Black family roots in New Orleans, Louisiana, records show. ABC News obtained several records, including the U.S. Census records from the early 1900s, demonstrating that the first American Pope's family tree reflects the complex racial history of this country. Both of Leo's maternal grandparents, Joseph Martinez and Luis Bascu, I'm saying that wrong, are described as Black or mulatto in census documents, in several census documents. His grandparents are described as Black or mulatto. On their 1887 marriage license, Martinez listed his birthplace as Haiti. And birth records show he was born in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic. When they got to studying and looking back, they said, nah. His grandmother, for sure, was born in New Orleans. Despite Martinez being born abroad, his father, the Pope's great-grandfather, was found to be from Louisiana. Then one of the Pope's brothers came out and said that he was aware, that the family is aware, that they originally identified as black or mulatto when they lived in the South down in New Orleans. When the family made the decision to migrate to Chicago somewhere around 1910 to 1912, they changed their race. They changed their race to white. Did you hear what I said? Many families did this as a question of their livelihood, as an economic decision. They passed for white. So they was black when they lived in New Orleans, and it says so, or mulatto, which means you mixed. On all of the census documents, paperwork, marriage licenses, birth certificates, it says black. And then in 1910, 1912, when the family decides to move to Chi-Town, they go from being black to being white. And his brother, because he got two, one of them, he came out, he said, we know that. That happened. Yeah. So so they were talking to some of the other Chicago priests who all said, he what? Now we ain't heard nothing about that. Like, he got black folks in his family. He's part black. No. Now, he ain't never mentioned that. We don't know nothing about that. So that whole idea about being Creole, French, Spanish, in origins, in terms of population, West African populations, like, understand, this is a part of this dude's background. Now, this is my thing. This is my thing. This is my thing. This is my thing. When did he know? you playing my show. We can hear Debo is playing my show. Really? So, y'all, because I'm about to be janky, and leave it to me, because I will be. So you grown, you find out that y'all folks actually was black. And at some point, they change their race to white. Do you keep identifying as white? Do you at some point, like, I want to see what boxes the Pope was checking when he was doing stuff. Your passport application. I don't know. Do they get money? Your W-2. I mean, what was you checking, bruh? I mean, I don't mean no disrespect, but because I look at you a different kind of way if you knew your people had lied and then you made the decision to keep the lie going. And how do I trust all of you when you willing to keep the lie going? Because that says a little something to me. And I wonder if they would have chose you had they known there was this black lineage. Because I'm sorry, people can be special. That might have been a deterrent to everybody rallying around you if they knew that. So I don't know if it is a thing for anyone else. But I mean, it was like that moment when Tiger Woods said, when all the black folks was dancing and celebrating in the streets, woo, we got our first black, green jacket wearer, woo, we first black. And Tiger Woods looked there in the camera and said, y'all can calm down. I'm not black. And everybody was like, wait, what? Because we seen your daddy. Yeah, I don't identify that way. Well, all right then, bruh. So, you know, even though we still admire the game of golf, black folks decided to let Tiger Woods go be Tiger Woods. That's why you're behind, end up with your car wrecked and all of the expose with the 35 white girls on the front of the page. Like, that's right, bro. You ain't black. don't look for no support over here. But does anybody else question a little bit of the Pope's character because you knew your family lied about being black and you may have, I don't know, but it seems like you chose to keep the lie going. I gotta take a break. I'll be right back. Welcome back. I told you I was going to have guests in the last half hour of the show. I don't even know if I really should call him a guest though, because it's a colleague, none other than.
I like guests.
Oh, see, if I say guest, I'm gonna act nicer.
I guess. So I love it.
None other than Will Martin. Hey, Will.
Hey, how are you doing?
man?
How you
Have I
doing?
seen you since the election?
Oh my goodness, no.
No,
No. But I could
okay.
feel the smile through the radio.
Could you?
I could feel
Can
the
you?
smile.
You
It's
felt-
still going. It's still
Don't
going.
confuse that heat with a smile, bro. Don't confuse that. But we got company, so we gonna act right. No politics today.
Thank you, thank you.
But you are here to, in fact, announce a new series
Right.
that we have coming up at the station.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much for having us on today. And we talk about the fact that in Milwaukee, we've got 58,000 young school-aged kids who are African American, K
Okay.
through 12.
Right.
Right. We make up almost half of all the kids available for school-aged K-12 system in Milwaukee. Right.
Right.
Almost half. And yet a lot of parents just don't know what their options are, what the educational options are for their children, what would fit best for their kids, and what their needs and interests are. So as WNOV, we wanted to come together and have an educational excellence series. We reached out to 200 schools, public, private, parochial, charter, and choice and contract even. And of those schools, we found some real jewels out of all these options for families that we want to make sure that they're educated about their choices.
Okay.
So, for instance, one of the options that we have, and listeners should, tune in from Tuesday to Thursday of this week, from 3 to 4, right after Al Sharpton. And what they're going to get a chance to hear is one of the schools where kids are at risk. We've got a lot of young people who are at risk of failing, maybe a year behind in school, more likely to drop out as a result. There's a school in our midst that actually has been specializing in turnarounds for those young people. And one of the great stories they tell is about one of the young ladies who was ready to quit. She's now dean of students. She went to college, went to graduate school, is now a dean of students and helping other young people. That's one of the schools that we're going to have as an opportunity for people to hear about. So if you know someone who's at risk, there's a school and there's an option that's doing an incredible job. There's another school where they specialize in teaching language.
Okay.
And if you master that language and you take a international test, you can actually go overseas for college from Milwaukee for free. Actually study overseas. And then thirdly, we've got an incredible partner. I don't know of any other school as a middle school that has a relationship with the Kennedy Center for Performing Arts. But this school, Roosevelt Middle School of the Arts, is one of those as well that's going to get featured as a part of this educational excellence series.
Okay.
And we have with us right now Tiffany Fisher, who is principal of that wonderful school.
Hi.
Well, hey, Miss Fisher, how you doing today?
I am doing amazing.
And she's already been to school and already now over here.
Oh, look,
Mhm.
I understand the life of a principal.
Yep.
Yeah, you wear all hats and you do all
There we
things.
go. There we go.
Miracle worker.
And
Yeah.
it was calm over there. I went to go meet with her team. Everything situated.
Better be.
Well, how long have you been in education and how long have you been over at the school?
Yep, I've been in education. Thanks for having me
Mhm.
on. I've been in education this is my 32nd year in MPS.
Whoa.
I started in 1992. I worked in recreation and was in college and just kind of had that as a summer job. And then kind of, went to college, graduated, was hired, and have been there ever since. Tech graduate.
Okay, I was gonna
So
say, are you from
yeah,
Milwaukee?
I'm from Milwaukee, and I've been a principal since 2010. So I was at an elementary school first. Had a number of experiences in MPS. I kind of saw myself in the beginning. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be a little gypsy and pop around, but it's really shaped who I am today. So that's kind of been my journey. And then arrived at Roosevelt in 2017. I have an arts background. I actually majored in art. Then I kind of came to my senses and was like, let me get something that's gonna make some money. I gotta make some money now. So let me, be realistic. So then, went into teaching and have been at Roosevelt since 2017. I really like it because arts is kind of the heart of who I am. So,
What's your medium in art?
theater.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I
Speaking
theater.
of theater,
Okay.
We have a further announcement today that WNOV has become the media partner for a world premiere at Roosevelt Middle School of the Arts.
Yes.
We will be featured as the media partner, and most importantly, the kids will be featured on the 15th and 16th. That's Thursday and Friday of this week. I believe it's 11 and 6
Yes.
are the performances, and they're going to be performing Frederick the Musical. This is the first time ever this is being performed, and something like 25 of your kids are
Yes.
actively involved in the performance. What's beautiful about it is kids from Milwaukee, kids from Roosevelt, through this partnership with Kennedy Center for Performing Arts, they've literally stood on and performed on the same stage as Aretha Franklin and so many others have, international artists. So they've gotten a chance to go to DC because of their shorter performance. You know, they did a small treatment. The Kennedy Center asked to have a much longer production made, and now it's I think 90 minutes,
Yes.
hour and a half. We now have stepped up, and we are the media partner for this world premiere that's happening right here in Milwaukee.
So tell me a little bit about this production. I am a huge theater buff. Love it. Love it. We were just over in Chicago to go see an opera. Black opera, Tremonisha. And so any opportunity that I have to support the arts, obviously I'm going to be right there.
Yes.
So, and I want to talk a little bit more about the school for sure. But since you mentioned this, how do our young people get this opportunity?
Yes. And if anyone wants to come, it's fredthemusical.com. Like Will said, it's this week, 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Or you can come or call Roosevelt to find out more information about the tickets. But anyway, just really briefly, 2016, our school joined the National Turnaround Arts Cohort. It was an initiative through Michelle Obama.
Okay.
And the philosophy is that we get kids in art, then, you see behaviors decrease, you see attendance increase. And then our feeder school is High School of the Arts. And we actually partner with professional artists. And then teachers get trained in art strategy. So one of ours is visual thinking strategy. And every teacher in Roosevelt has been trained and they do it. And it's a relationship building thing, but it's also to get them to, learn how to respond, aesthetically to the world around them, issues and things like that. But anyway, got this partnership in 2016 with Michelle Obama. And then 2018, we had a National Turnaround Arts showcase. That included students from all 50 states. So we go there. Kids have never been really, away from. I asked some of them, have you ever been to Mayfair? They said no. And these are 8th graders. So they were really excited. Was paid for by the MPS Foundation at the time. So we traveled there, and Mr. Leviston, our arts director, he manages the grant. We have 4 schools in Milwaukee that were a part of the grant at the time. Roosevelt's one of them, the only middle school. So we partnered with Mr. Leviston. He runs the grant. So he, with some teachers and some actually professional artists like First Stage got together, and we worked on a piece called Frederick Douglass. And at the time, like Will said, it was a 5-minute piece. We got up, we performed on that stage with other states, and we were the only school that got a standing ovation. And it just talks about the life and time. And if you remember, if you've ever seen Hamilton, it's just like that.
Oh, this is better.
But I'm glad that you clarified that, because, and I had to go look it up, because there is something called Frederick the Musical, but it's about a mice. And so I'm like, no, this is not the same thing. So so I'm glad that was cleared up. So this sounds like a cool opportunity for these children. So how have they responded to being a part of all this?
They've responded well. I don't know. Do you remember Fame? Remember the show called Fame?
Totally.
Debbie Allen, and remember all those temperaments and all that. Leon and Coco.
Yeah,
remember
honey. Yes.
See, I'm up there. Yep.
So, I'm having flashbacks.
Yes.
Because look, don't make me sing the theme song, because I remember.
Yes.
Irene Cara.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So
it's intense.
That environment.
Yes, it is that environment. They're intense. They have their normal artist breakdowns. They will get together. I mean, they are really there, but they're the most professional. I mean, we've taken kids that I came in and they were just, upset all the time, just really, really struggling. In both environments, I'm talking about home and school. And when I say have made a complete turnaround, so now we're to the point where practicing. They're pulling out and being practiced with, about 4 hours, and then he also takes them for the other 4 hours of the day and does, all of their studies. So things are online, so they're getting their academics. They're making sure they're getting that. Parents are aware. We're meeting with parents every week, but they're doing amazing. I cannot believe some of the vocals, some of the, like I said, I'm theater, forensics, and all that, so I can kind of look. You sit and practice, and it's mind blowing. So
let's speak about the academic side then. So when
Mhm.
folks are talking about options, and I have always been a person, I say it often on this show, when I was in high school and middle school, all the way through, I did everything.
Mhm.
So, band, cheer, music, choir,
Mhm.
forensics. If it was something to do, editor of the
Yep.
yearbook, I did it.
Yep.
And I understood that was some of the things that kept me coming to school every day.
Mhm.
And it kept me out of trouble
Right.
because there were GPA requirements to
Mhm.
participate in a lot of things. For folks that are saying, I like the balance of the arts, but I
Mhm.
want to understand academically how the school is performing.
Mhm.
What should they know about Roosevelt?
Yep, Roosevelt. If you are involved in the arts, just with that philosophy of arts, I'm glad you talked about that, and you use the term at risk. And we know when students come in, some of them are behind grade level and things like that. We like to say they're at potential. We've heard people say that, and we say we don't call them at risk, we call them at potential. So we take their scores, and they're engaged in a number of interventions. But students that are in the arts, if you do choose that, you have your 5 core classes, but you also have 2 arts classes. So we're really robust about the arts. Our philosophy, and NPS adopted this a couple years ago, it's standards-based proficiency. So let's say you're in a math class and we're studying my favorite, the Pythagorean theorem, and you just don't get it, and you take your assessment and you perform a little bit lower. One thing we have is amnesty days. So students come to school, we send it out to the parents. Amnesty days is if there's any assessments that you're not doing well at, you can always take them over. Teacher will reteach. So with that philosophy, there's really no opportunity for students to be failing. And that's at least in the classroom. Now, we do have to take state and local assessments, and we've seen some really good growth in our assessments. But also, in addition to Amnesty Day, we also have we have portfolio assessments. We have tutors that come in, they're in the school all day. So really, to answer your question, we are serious about academics because we know we can do all of these arts, and at the end of the day, we need kids reading and writing and doing math at proficiency. So Roosevelt has some great gains over the last 4 years with our middle school. We have some challenges too, but we believe just that if people come to school and they're into the arts, they're going to buy into school. It's hard to get kids to buy into school, but with that, if they buy into school, that's going to increase their interest, and it's going to show return on our investment as in the
Michelle,
academics.
they're doing such incredible things because, we talk about how few opportunities our kids get, and exposure. There's so much that great schools in NPS are doing, and we don't hear about that enough. There's so many things that we hear on the news that are what are not working for NPS. There are all these jewels in the system. And so that's the thing that we really wanted to highlight during this educational excellence series.
So then let me ask though, because I haven't had a child in high school for like 30 years. So for folks
wait,
that are
what was
trying
that? What'd you say?
It was some number. It was a number. But for folks that are saying though, like, so I don't know what admissions process is like. I don't know if there's open enrollment or parents can pick and choose. I know my son graduated from King, and there was a process to get into King. So what's the process for parents that are listening and says, this sounds really interesting. I'd like to either think about this. My child's in elementary now, or I have a child that has already started middle school, but I think this is a better fit. How does it work in terms of enrollment?
Yep, you can go online and enroll, but I would invite you, and this is just how I am as a leader. This is what I believe about the community. Parents have enough challenges trying to figure out and navigate what's what. Just come to the school and call and ask for me. Say, can I see the principal, Miss Fisher? I'm looking to enroll. I will stop what I'm doing. I'll give you a tour. I'll sit down and talk with you over, whatever your child's needs. We do have a lot of students that they'll say, hey, they were at this Milwaukee middle school, or they were in this state, or they were in this district, and we went online, we saw your website, and we really like what you guys are doing. So, how can my child take advantage of this? So they can come to the school. Our number is 414-267-8800. You can ask to speak right to Ms. Fisher, or pop up anytime at the counter, ask for me, and I will stop what I'm doing. Myself or the parent coordinator or the other administrators will walk you around. That is just how much we believe in what we're doing.
And that's why we really wanted to highlight these schools, because
First of all,
three
I'm
them,
sorry, I'm tripping, because that level of access and or service is crazy.
Oh wait, it gets
you
better.
don't hear about it.
Oh,
like
it gets
that.
better when you hear the interview, and that's why I say people have got to listen from Tuesday to Thursday, 3 to 4, because she actually gives her cell phone number, because she wants to make sure she hears directly from the parents. I mean, that's how much they're engaged.
That doesn't
happen. And when you hear these 3 schools, they all are looking. I mean, I think that's one of the specialties of these schools is they're all looking to make sure they engage these parents, that they're partnering with the parents. This is not just like some kind of factory where they're just putting kids in and popping them back out.
Well, I tell you what, from just what has been said so far, it sounds like it's going to be an amazing series.
I think so.
And Ms. Fisher, I am so glad that you were the first to stop through, because again, it's an area I am extremely passionate about, the arts, and I understand. And my son went to Alabama State, and he dated a young girl at the time who was in the arts, who ultimately ended up going to Brandeis. And so it's funny, I'll see her in commercials now, or different things, that projects that she is working on. She does more theater than anything, but there are schools in which you can actually go and get a scholarship in the arts and in theater. And I would always say we're cutting off pathways for children every time we get rid of these programs. One more music program leaves the school, that's a band scholarship that goes away. So I am so glad to know that Roosevelt is thriving and doing the work actively and pushing us in arenas and areas and spaces that we hadn't been. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Make sure to listen. Okay, and if you are not a subscriber on YouTube and Facebook, you can not only just hear it, you could see the interviews, which Devo did an excellent job of getting some of the images of the schools up, the logos, etc. 3 to 4 p.m. Tuesday to Thursday this week, and then Frederick the Musical, the 15th and 16th, Thursday, Friday, 11 and 6. It's only $5. Now everybody's got $5. Everybody's got $5 now.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can make the 11 a.m. performance. I know I got some Thursday night, but I'm in. Okay.
Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you.
Thanks for having us over.
All right. And look, family, that's a wrap for the show today. It has been informative, a lot of information. I promise some folks I'll get numbers for Mark Thompson. I'll get those for you. But I want to say thank you to the bros in the studio. Thank you, Byron. Thank you, Devo.
See how mellow and peaceful it was in here today?
We got company.
No. Because Jermaine wasn't
Jermaine
here.
is not here. All right, family, that's a wrap. I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Peace. Said your words, girl. Something real.